Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornblut, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Better be ready to start because he's definitely the backup coming out of spring ball. He's had a very consistent spring, and he has to prepare himself to be the starter. If he's not, then he's cheating himself and he's cheating our team.
Just watch the players get better every day. That was a big plus where, I thought we improved and kept improving from an effort standpoint, from an assignment standpoint, and a technique standpoint.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina. A Monday night after a crazy weekend, spring football, the Masters, good race over at Texas. We got a lot to cover for you here tonight on Sports Talk. Good to have you with us. Phil Kornblut, Kevin McCrary, Professor Tom Hayes, all together at our studios on Main Street, down 800-956-7266, the number. And on Twitter at Sports Talk SC. Coming up, we'll hear from Steve Spurrier, John Hoke, Dabo Sweeney, Brent Venables. The two spring games covered. I was at USC. K-Mac was at Clemson. And, of course, the weekend of the Masters at Augusta. What a performance by Jordan Spieth. I don't know, of course, when Tiger had his blowout victory a few years ago, people said, I wonder if we'll ever see that again. Now we saw one even better, and you wonder if we'll see a performance like that again, a singularly great performance from the first day to the end, guys. It just looks like a guy that has just got a game that's perfect and a field that's perfect for Augusta National.
Yeah. Well, and he's been playing well for the past several weeks. He was the hottest player on the tour going into that tournament, and he picked up where he left off. And it's great to see another young face, young American. I don't know that we'll ever see somebody take the game by storm the way Tiger did for a lot of different reasons. Tiger was kind of unique, but it is nice to see him make that run. And you can just tell, Pro, that this wasn't a flash in the pan. This guy has something special, that this is the beginning of something. That wasn't the end. This is the beginning of probably a significant run for one Jordan Spieth.
And I think from a mental standpoint, just staying even keel. I thought probably, quite frankly, he could have had a better round, but he didn't see the need to take any gambles in Saturday and Sunday, and he just played steady rounds of golf, and that kept him at bay. Though old lefty looked like he wanted to close in a couple of times.
Tiger on Saturday looked like he wanted to make a run.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you shoot 14 under.
The corn.
If somebody would have said, Phil Mickelson's going to shoot 14 under, I would have said, Phil Mickelson's going to win another green jacket.
Yeah. And at one point headed to 19 under. Bogeyed the last, dropping back to 18 under. But a great performance. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And we will welcome him to Harbortown. He is scheduled to play at the RBC Heritage beginning this week. He's in New York now, but he's scheduled to be at Harbortown. He is on the official list of players scheduled to tee off on Thursday. Hopefully, he won't wear himself out and won't withdraw at the last moment. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network from downtown Columbia. A couple of things to talk about, then we'll get to your phone calls, 800-956-7266. USC did get the commitment over the weekend from Isaiah Johnson, and we'll be talking to him in just a few minutes, the former Kansas safety who will transfer to South Carolina for his final season. He'll join us here on Sports Talk to talk about his decision and his move to South Carolina. He's from Cary, North Carolina. One other quick recruiting notes, Shelton Mitchell, former Vanderbilt point guard, is going to visit Clemson this weekend. First reported by Strelo at TigerIllustrated.com. So this is a guy that Clemson recruited coming out of high school and did not get. In fact, he's committed and signed with Wake Forest first. Got out of his letter of intent there when they fired the coach. Then he goes to Vanderbilt, plays this year at Vanderbilt as a backup point guard. Now he's moving on, and I think Clemson is one of the places he's going to look, maybe Charlotte at NC State as well. As far as the USC spring game goes, I was there for that, and it was not an offensive showcase by any means, but I thought that the South Carolina quarterbacks, by and large, threw the ball pretty well. To understand the circumstances in which they were playing. They were facing a vanilla defense, read a bunch of configurations, and there was no sacking the quarterback. You could put hands on him. You could flush him out of the pocket and that sort of thing, but then the play would be blown dead. So it wasn't real from that standpoint. But in terms of throwing the football accurately, I thought they did a nice job from Mitch down through Scarnecchia. Orth had a couple of picks. Those were the only interceptions of the day by the quarterbacks. So by and large, I thought they looked pretty good. Didn't see much of the running game because they didn't run the ball very much. And defense, I thought in terms of what they were doing, which was being very basic, I thought the tackling was better. When they had opportunities for one-on-one tackles, the guys made the tackles. Now you don't know how hard everybody was running and playing because it was a spring game. Would there have been an extra effort to break loose in a regular season game? Possibly so. But I thought that it looked cleaner on defense in terms of fundamentals, coming up and putting the shoulder on a guy and getting him to the ground. So, and the other positive for South Carolina was that there were no major injuries coming out of the game. So I think they've got to feel kind of good about.
I mean, how much can you really take out of a game with the air quotes where Darius Rucker catches a touchdown and where he had half the points?
He ran a very good pattern.
I mean, John Hoke, you got to, if you can't cover Darius Rucker, how are you going to cover SEC wide receivers? I mean, that's the question for John Hoke right now.
He stayed up all night, worrying about that.
He should.
But I think that in all seriousness, I thought that the defense did look well organized. Got a chance to see some people for the first time in uniform, for example, watching the offensive lineman, watching DJ Park, watching Donnell Stanley, who looks pretty good to me. These are two big guys, and in time and with experience, I think they've got a chance to be pretty good offensive linemen. So all in all, not a bad spring day for South Carolina, not a great deal of excitement. It was a pretty blasé kind of a spring game. But I think Spurrier felt like the quarterbacks were okay. Nobody has separated himself from the pack, so that competition will continue into the fall when Lorenzo Nunez will join the battle. Now up your way, a lot more offense.
Yeah, a lot of offense, a lot of big runs out there. Clemson has a stable of running backs. Gallman is the starter right now coming out of spring, according to Tony Elliott. He said that's the guy, and everybody else is kind of clustered in behind him. Nick Schuessler is your clear-cut number 2. No, there's not a quarterback controversy, but he is the backup. And Dabo Swinney said he's ready to play, and he would have no reservations about putting him in should something happen. And he said they have to expect him to play because, look, Deshaun Watson was hurt a couple of times last year. They have to have another guy ready. And Schuessler really did look confident out there. And you know what? I liked Israel, and I liked Bryant. Bryant's definitely got some elusiveness to him, and might be somebody that can help them down the line somewhere. Maybe not at quarterback, depending on what happens. So great crowd for Clemson. I mean, everybody fudges the attendance. I remember last year I was in the press box, but they still had a press box at Death Valley. They were trying to figure out how much to announce. And I heard a guy with the Clemson Sports Information Department go, well, how many did they announce in Columbia? They trying to decide if they needed to go more. They had a legit 30,000 in the stands. The lower bowl was pretty much all the way full. It was a beautiful day, a little on the warm side, but just impressive what they have offensively with the weapons out there. Now, defensively, they set these things up for the offenses to score, and and unlike USC, Clemson does make it more of a true game. They divide up the players where you have first string guys on both teams and second string guys on both teams. They don't do just offense versus defense, but the defense when they that. They didn't have 22. Like last year, they had both defenses were really good. This year, both defenses were, they were struggling out there because, as Brent Venables put it to us, I have 11 guys that I really like, and then maybe a couple after that. Yeah. They do not have the depth defensively. They're looking for some guys. They're hoping some guys. Mark Fields, he said, might be, he's going to have a chance to play when he gets onto campus. They're going to play some young guys next year. They're going to take a step back defensively, but I think a step forward offensively. So maybe it'll balance out.
That's the question I was about to ask you, because even though it was a spring game last year, you could tell that Clemson's defense, all right, this is it. Nobody's going to score us. Is the offense that much far ahead this year, or they know they're going to have to score to help out the defense, especially early in the season?
And again, they didn't have their best offensive player. The most dynamic offensive player was standing there watching all the plays with Dabo Swinney on the field and Deshaun Watson. So I don't know that they're going into it expecting that they're going to have to win shootouts and outscore everybody. They still feel like their defense is going to be okay. They feel like Shaq Lawson is going to be able to get to the quarterback. They like their linebackers. If they have injuries, if they start getting hit by that injury bug on the defensive side of the ball, they could be scrambling a little bit. And they were a great defense. That was one of the best defenses in Clemson history. And that's a school that has a rich history in terms of great defenses and great defensive players. So that would be completely naive, but I think they could have some struggles on that side of the ball, relatively speaking. But offensively, they have a lot of really good players. Artavis Scott is developing. He's more than just a end around, toss it to him, and off he goes. He's catching passes down the field now. Mike Williams is that possession receiver. Peak is finally healthy out there. They mentioned the running backs and Gallman and Davidson and all these guys that are stepping up. They have a cluster of tight ends they feel good about, and they have that Deshaun Watson guy that has an innate ability to find the right guy, right play at the right time. That's a pretty lethal combination if you're Clemson.
One more thought on USC. The receivers, Casey Crosby, I think, has got a chance to be a really good player for them. He had 3 nice catches on Saturday. Terry Guger looked good catching the football. Debo Samuels as well. So they too have got some guys that will emerge as weapons for them in the receivers position. With Crosby and Jarrell Adams, they have a chance to have a very good pair of tight ends, receiving tight ends. Who, if you can get the ball to them, they're going to make some yards for you. Adams caught a pass very early in the scrimmage, and that was the only time I think they threw to him. And like I said, Crosby had, I think, 3 passes on the day. He looked very good to me, and he's a very good athlete coming out of Bamberg Earhart. I would look for some big things from him this year. He'll get his shot. And Guger is a big receiver. He's 6'4". One thing that Spurrier said after the scrimmage, though, he said the receivers need to get faster. I don't know how you do that in the offseason. He said you can get faster. He says they need to get faster as a group. They're big as a group.
That's a big question mark of those wide receivers.
I think receivers need to learn how to get by DBs. I mean, because you can face it, there's a lot of receivers that can't run fast, but somehow they always open.
Sidney Rice. If you're at the spring game, want to share your thoughts about what you saw, 800-956-7266. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com, on Twitter @SportsTalkSC. Facebook is Sports Talk Radio Network, and the website is sportstalksc.com. We jump to the phones here as we go to Billy in Greenville. And welcome into Sports Talk, Billy. How are you?
Fine.
Good.
I had a chance to watch a little bit of the spring game, and of course, I'm nowhere an expert, but Connor Mitch, the arm strength and throwing an accurate throw, I thought was pretty. It was a lot more impressive than I thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
Connor Mitch impressed me a little bit. And I know it's a long way before game time, but he was a little bit more impressive than I thought.
I thought the quarterbacks as a whole looked pretty good, but Mitch will be fine. 10 of 16, 183 yards, a touchdown, 3 years in the program now. He certainly knows what they're trying to do out there. Scarnecchia was 12 of 19 for 191 yards and a touchdown. Of course, the Mitch touchdown was that pass to Darius Rutger, which came very early. It's like the third play of the game, I think it was. It caught everybody off guard because usually that's a play that Spurrier pulls late in the scrimmage. I think Darius had some obligations that he had to tend to and had to get it done early. So you can't really it's a touchdown. It goes in the records as a touchdown pass, but we know it was all a fake. But Mitch does have a good arm, and, it'll be still you're going to have to kind of wait and see come North Carolina game in Charlotte to see what he's all about, or if it's him or if it's Scarnecchia or Orth or Nunez.
Okay, good point.
Thank you. Yeah, you got to see him under live bullets. It's one thing to do it in a spring game. That's all well and good, but you want to see him when the bullets are live, and that'll come when they face North Carolina, which might be a good opponent to start against because their defense was atrocious last year. Now they brought in a new coordinator in Gene Chiswick. I don't think he can fix it in 1 year. So you might have a chance as a South Carolina offense to face a pretty bad defense and get off to a good start and build some confidence.
Well, do you think John Hoke can fix the Gamecock defense in 1 year?
I don't think South Carolina's defense was as bad as North Carolina.
Well, they didn't give up 70 to East Carolina, I guess, in that regard. But there are some indications out of Chapel Hill that Chiswick is doing things.
I'm sure he's going to improve things.
Right. And it's the first game of the year. It's a Thursday night. You never know how that's going to go. But I agree with the caller. And I didn't watch the spring game, but I never felt that it was really fair, all the people that were writing off Connor Mitch and saying, you know what, they need to get Everett Golson from Notre Dame and they need to bring in somebody because they don't have a quarterback. How do you know that? The guy has not had an opportunity to play in a significant game. And Dylan Thompson had the greatest passing season ever at South Carolina. Dylan Thompson was not a great talent. He's not. He's not going to probably play a snap in the NFL. He knew the system. Steve Spurrier developed him, and he did fine. And I think that Connor Mitch can be as good as Dylan Thompson was last year. Not breaking records, but managing the game, managing the offense, and be okay.
We'll be right back. And we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. More of your calls coming up. We'll hear from Steve Spurrier coming up. We'll hear from Dabo Sweeney as well about their spring games on Saturday. 800-956-7266 is the number. Phil Kornblut, Professor Tom Hayes, and K-Mac Kevin McCrary all with you tonight, along with the Steak Man, Graham Pope. And before we get back to your phone calls, going to head out to Kansas. Welcome into Sports Talk, new member of the USC football team, at least unofficially, made a verbal commitment. He'll become an official member when he arrives this summer. Isaiah Johnson, who the last 2 years, a standout safety at Kansas, decided to transfer for his final year and has picked South Carolina as his new home, and he joins us from Lawrence. Isaiah, how you doing, man?
Good. How you doing?
We're doing great. Thanks for joining us, and congratulations on your decision to join the South Carolina football team. Tell us about what you saw over the weekend on your official visit that led you to go ahead and make the decision.
You know, I've seen a lot of things. I mean, just coming off the plane, when I got to meet Coach Robinson, and basically just have a feel for what I was seeing right there, I just knew for a fact that I wanted to come home. And just the whole time, my whole 3 days was a great experience, you know, being around Coach Robinson, Coach Ward, Coach Spurrier. They all did a great job of showing me around, and the host that I was with, TJ Holloman, did an excellent job. And I mean, I got to go a lot of places. I got to go downtown. I got to see the whole area, the whole 5 Points, I think it is, and all the other great spots that the players go and people like to hang out. And you know, from there, and then be able to go around campus and look at the academic services that they have for me and offer for me is great. And I mean, just from, like I said, once I stepped off the plane, I knew it would be a great experience for me. So I got to see a lot.
This is kind of unusual for us because normally we're talking to a high school kid that's committed to a school. And so he's coming from a high school background. You're coming from a major college background to another major college. So how would you compare? I know it's only been brief for you, but how would you compare Lawrence and Columbia?
It's a huge comparison. I mean, no disrespect to Kansas and Lawrence, but I mean, Columbia is just the right fit for me. You know, the palm trees, just the weather, everything is just a huge difference. And honestly, being able to always play close to home. I mean, South Carolina and Columbia is only about 3 hours from my house, so that was just a big turn for me too. But I like both places, but I mean, Columbia is just right for me. Perfect fit for me. From your visits with Coach Hoke over the weekend, and I'm sure he showed you the defensive scheme and the depth chart and what he has in mind for you. You know, what did he say to you about how he plans to use you? Well, his new defensive system that he's bringing in, the schemes that he's running, you know, they're great. And they actually moving towards, I think he said 4-2-5, which is actually like a spur that they added, and that's just 3 more opportunities for me because they actually use the strong safety, free safety, and the spur as an extra safety. So, I mean, he said he'll use me anywhere, whatever he feels comfortable, and wherever I feel comfortable. Like I said, those are just 3 opportunities that, I mean, I have a chance to play it. So, basically, you need those 3 positions.
Yeah, your experience at Kansas, were you more like in the deep zones, or did you play in the box closer to the line of scrimmage?
With our schemes in Kansas, we actually interchanged, which is kind of like what South Carolina did. But I mean, I was all over the place. I was in the box and played middle of the field a lot, and got to show my range a little bit. So I was in and out the box. The opportunity to play in the SEC after being in the Big 12, how was that a factor? You also considered Louisville here at the end, so it was ACC, SEC. What was your thinking about that? Yeah, I mean, everyone knows the SEC is the powerhouse, the big dog. So I mean, that was a huge way for me, and just be able to play in the SEC and compete with those guys too was a big turn on for me too. So I mean, that was a big, as you would say, that was a big thing for me. Yeah. Do you see yourself coming in and stepping right into a spot? Are you going to have to kind of wait behind some guys and kind of beat some people out to get your playing time? Yeah, I mean, honestly, anywhere you go, you're not basically given a spot, but you have opportunities to compete for that spot, and I know that's what I'm going to be doing because I talked to Coach Hoke and the other guys, and they told me that they're going to give me all the opportunities to come in, compete, and showcase my skills. So, yeah, I know I'm going to be able to come in and compete with the guys that they have there, and guess the best man wins, gets the job.
What do you see as your strengths? Are you a very good run stopper as a safety, running up and making a play on the run, or you consider yourself good in pass coverage, or maybe both?
I mean, I like doing it all, but I think my strength is more of a deep middle ball hawk type of guy because, I mean, I love to get interceptions. And, I had, I think, 77 tackles last year. And the year before that, I had like 75. I had like 6 interceptions in the 2 years that I played there. But I mean, whatever you guys like to call it, I don't know. But I think I'm more of a deep middle guy, like a free safety, rangy guy.
And what do you think it's going to be like for you? You've been at Kansas, where we all know basketball is the king program there because of its greatness. And we know that Kansas football has struggled here of late. Now you're coming to a situation where football is king, where everybody lives and dies with the football program. How exciting will that be for you to be in that kind of setting?
Yeah, that's very exciting. Like I know Coach was telling me South Carolina has no pro sports. I think it was no pro. I think it's no pro football sports. But,
correct.
Yeah, I mean, everybody, basically on South Carolina. Clemson is the other school. That's just huge too because that's even more of a higher fan base for the football team, and I mean more, I guess, exposure. So that's big too.
How big are you right now? What's your size?
I'm probably about 6'1", probably like 209.
And is that what they want you to play at, about 209, 210?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, in that 205, 210 range, most likely, wherever I feel comfortable, wherever I can move the fastest.
Okay, very good. And now you will graduate on the 17th of May, and you got to take the GRE and get your graduate stuff all lined up, but you don't expect that to be any kind of a problem?
No, sir. I think that's all set in stone. I should be fine. I should be able to come in either a June or July session and get around the players and get a feel of the team and be able to play this spring. I mean, this fall, upcoming fall. So.
That sounds good. Isaiah, we thank you, man. Congratulations again on getting things worked out with South Carolina. Look forward to seeing you here this fall.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You got it. Thank you. All right, Isaiah Johnson. And that's a boost for South Carolina's defense. I don't think there's any question about that. Individually, I know he played on a bad football team at Kansas, but individually he had some really good numbers the last 2 years. He was the Big 12 Defensive Newcomer of the Year in 2013. So a defense that needs some age is going to get older. That's another thing to look at with this South Carolina defense compared to last year. It's going to be an older group. With the addition of Isaiah Johnson, with an older, like a Dexter Wideman coming in, he's a year older than normal, plus the returning guys and the junior college guys they're adding. Marquavius Lewis, an older guy, the linebackers, linebackers, older guys. I think that helps in the maturation of the defense and in the improvement of the defense.
Well, pretty much what happens now is everybody will be on the same page. John Hoke is going to change some terminology. He's going to break some things down, and everybody will know the defense. I think last year, Corn, everybody talks about the talent. Yeah, the talent in the front four was a little bit down, but I got to tell you that those guys were confused from the get-go. When they tried to switch from 3-4 back to the 4-3 and all this, you totally confused your players. In fact, if you figured it out, your veteran players were better off showing the young guys when they went back to the old system because they knew it.
Yeah.
Now they'll start off on the same page. There will be no confusion, no switching back and forth. And I think, if anything, that helps the defense right off the bat.
I would agree. Thanks again to Isaiah Johnson for being with us here on Sports Talk. Coming up, we've got our Braves reports. We've got recruiting. We've got coverage from USC and Clemson spring games and more of your phone calls right here on Sports Talk. time for our Braves report tonight here on Sports Talk. Braves coming off a great opening week of the season and feeling good about themselves after getting through the opening week with one loss. Our Braves report with Mike Morgan brought to you by Play It Again Sports off Bower Parkway in Columbia, where you pay less for more, by Founders Credit Union, helping South Carolinians attain their financial goals, and by Mattress by Appointment. Real simple. You call, they'll save you 50 to 80% on premium mattress sets. 803-530-8549. Mike Morgan with us now. And yes, who could have expected this kind of start?
Nobody. I don't think anybody within the Braves organization expected 5-1. It's 6 games out of 162, so it's a very small fraction of the pie, if you will. But a lot of things encouraging. I think the most, aside from obviously the record, the thing that's most encouraging to folks that have been frustrated with this team the last couple of years is the way they play the game, the overall attitude, the overall demeanor, the execution. I think the hope is that will somehow at least overcome, in part, the talent that they lost, which is substantial. But the good pitching is a constant. That's there. That's not going anywhere. And they're scoring. They're scratching out just enough runs to win games, and we'll see if that trend can continue in this series against a team that they just swept moments ago in the Marlins.
Mike, Andrelton Simmons, where do we rank that play Friday night? That defensive play, maybe one of the best you'll ever see at shortstop. The distance, that throw didn't even bounce.
Right. It's kind of the point where you just take everything he does for granted. He is, by now I don't just say this kind of stuff just because it's the Braves. I mean, he's the best defensive shortstop in the game today. He is ultra special in what he can do. He's been that way the moment that the Braves signed him. Every level of the minors, he was like this, and now at the majors, he's got a gift. He's got a gift that very few even professional shortstops have. It's one of the best I've seen. If you were to show me a reel of the top 5, it might be a 5-way tie for first. They've all been exceptional. He just does so many great things out there defensively. A lot of fun to watch, and the hope is eventually the bat will come around a little bit better. Because I think Andrelton can be a better hitter. I think I saw that early on in his career, but he's almost faded a little bit in the last couple of years.
In the pregame show, they said that on the radio, I was listening on my way back from Clemson, they said there should be a spot where he made that throw. You know how they have like where you hit the home run, and that should, just so everybody knows when they go to a stadium, that's where Simmons threw him out from there.
Right. Yeah, just put it in chalk. Just put it in chalk out there. Yeah. I again, there's very few shortstops anymore that are worth the price of admission. Defensively now. When I grew up, it was Ozzie Smith who was my favorite player, and watching some of the plays that he made that simply nobody else in the game made. And I think the guy that you're going to see in that category for the next 10 years is Andrelton Simmons. I really do.
Well, Mike, we talked last year about the Braves as they were configured. It almost looked like it was a bad chemistry experiment, including sort of you didn't see that leadership in the clubhouse. The signing of a couple of guys who got a lot of tread on their tires, like a Gomes or Przinsky. Can you tell early on if their leadership in the clubhouse is going to help this team through the duration?
Absolutely, and I would add Markakis into that let's call it the magical trio. Look, there weren't, with the exception of B.J. Upton, there weren't a bunch of cancers in the clubhouse the last couple of years, but it certainly was just a complete lack of leadership. You just have type B personalities. That's what you had, and when you're overwhelmingly talented, you might be able to get by with that. And when you're so talented and you're winning with that kind of personality, they say, well, that's just them acting professional. This team in the last couple of years, the team has not been that talented where you can't have some guys that, get in the face a little bit, that are animated, that are gonna, when you're in the middle of a 5-game losing streak, then they're going to call a players only meeting and actually have the respect of the teammates in that meeting. And I think that's what this team has that the last couple of years they've really been lacking.
Okay, Mike, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you tomorrow night. Mike Morgan, our Braves report here on Sports Talk. The pitching matchup tonight will be Shelby Miller, who pitched very well for the Braves his first time out against Matt Latos. Of course, the Braves pummeled the Marlins when they swept them in Miami to open the season, and they had a good weekend against the Braves. I'm sorry, against the Mets. Braves had a good weekend against the Mets, and they'll try to keep it going tonight. That's the thing. Teams, and we've seen this a lot, teams that lose the great stars and you think they're left dead in the water, but they have a pretty decent group behind. They just sort of rally together and kind of play an us against the world kind of approach, and it leads to a lot of wins. Back in a moment. All right, let's jump into the rest of the recruiting report. Of course, you heard from Isaiah Johnson earlier, Kansas defensive back transferring to USC. Well Branch defensive lineman Niles Pickney had planned to go to Clemson Saturday but couldn't make it because of a track meet here in Columbia. He's on spring break this week. He'll visit Georgia Friday morning and Georgia Tech Friday afternoon, and then watch Tech's spring game Friday night. His father tells us Clemson, USC, Georgia, Georgia Tech, and Florida State make up their top five right now, with the Tigers and Gamecocks at the top. Probably will come down to a decision between the in-state schools, and the business programs at the two schools will weigh heavily in the decision. Linebacker T.J. Brunson, Richland Northeast, was at USC spring game Saturday, remains in touch with the Gamecocks as he recovers from recent hip surgery. He had wanted to commit to the Gamecocks earlier in the year, but they want to see how he responds physically to the surgery. He'll visit Georgia Southern this weekend. He's also been contacted by North Carolina and will visit there, and he's also hearing from Purdue, but he still favors USC. Dillon quarterback Avery McCall, a recent visitor to North Carolina. Tar Heels are high up on his list, according to his coach. North Carolina got a quarterback commitment last week, but they do plan to scout McCall during spring practice. Jackie Hayes said McCall is no longer getting interest from Clemson or USC. His other offers include East Carolina, Tennessee, LSU, Ohio State, NC State, Duke, and Old Dominion. 2017 athlete Denaje Huzendove of Allendale Fairfax was at USC spring game Saturday, and the Gamecocks are becoming more interested in him. He's also heard recently from Missouri and Georgia. He's going to Georgia April 27th and Clemson May 6th. Huzendove has claimed commitments to North Texas and Florida, but said he's not committed anywhere now and is wide open. Offensive lineman John Simpson of Fort Dorchester went to Florida for their spring game over the weekend, and he was offered by the Gators, while he was on that trip. That gives him an even dozen offers. He does not have any future dates set for visits, but he wants to see LSU and Tennessee. He talked to Clemson recruiter Tony Elliott on Sunday, hasn't heard from USC in a while, doesn't have a current favorite, has a top 5 of USC, Clemson, Georgia, Florida, Alabama in no order. Receiver DeAndre Overton of Greensboro, North Carolina, was at Clemson last Wednesday and Thursday, and the Tigers are very strong with him right now, along with USC, Tennessee, and NC State. He said those are his top 4. He got a chance to visit with the Clemson coaches, sit in on meetings, watch him break down the offense, things of that nature. He spent a lot of time and stayed with Mike Williams, and they see him stepping in for Williams if Williams leaves early for the NFL. He said that Clemson has been pretty much at the top of his list since he visited there in late January, but it's a battle between Clemson and Tennessee right now for number 1, and he went to Tennessee for a junior day and wants to get back there for a visit. 6'2" point guard Shelton Mitchell, transferring from Vanderbilt, will visit Clemson the end of this week, according to TigerIllustrated.com. And 7-foot center Connor Clifford of Saddleback Junior College in California visited USC over the weekend, had a great visit, will choose this week between the Gamecocks and Washington State. Top of the hour break. We'll be back.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Bluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
We are back, Sports Talk, here on a Monday night. Good to have you with us. Phil Kornblut, Kevin McCrary, Professor Tom Hayes at your service. Coming up, we're going to hear from Dabo Swinney, Steve Spurrier. Right now, back to the phones we go, and it's Billy in Florence next up on the program. Hey, Billy, how are you?
Hey, what's going on, Phil?
Not much.
I was going to talk, just kind of give you my take on Clemson spring game.
Yeah.
And, guys, K-Mac can probably comment on this if he knows any more, but what I took away from it, and I'll just summarize really, really quickly for you because I'm sure you pretty much know as much as I do. But anyway, the turnout was 37, or announced 37,000. We don't know that exactly, but a great turnout at Death Valley. But, guys, Dabo, I know didn't say it in his presser, but seems like to me Ortega Scott kind of separated himself with just a dynamic group of receivers. I mean, we're loaded. Mike Williams, of course. You forgetting Deion King's coming in, the 5-star receiver. And then you got Ray McLeod. It's going to play tailback or could slot out there, and you could maybe see back Brooks slot out there also. But it seems like to me Ortega Scott kind of separated himself and from the other receivers, and that's just good news. And the running backs are deep and a lot of speed out there on the defense. And what I gather is the first team defense is from, I mean, this is from the Clemson staff, that they feel like they're just as good as the first team, but that edge rusher, depth-wise, bringing in, Corey Crawford and then bringing in Shaq Lawson, they've still got the young guys got to step up. But I'm with Deshaun Watson, going out and saying that he feels like they can take it all. Guys, I know there's a lot of good teams. There's probably 12 or 13 teams that can fall into that national championship category. And I know it's only the spring, and some people's going to have some crucial injuries. Probably Clemson, I hope not, but everybody goes through the fall with a injury. But Bill, I want to see if you and K-Mac agree with this. I think the Tigers are set up for a big season, and I'm going to take it off the air. I'm psyched about it. I think Kelly Bryant gets his throwing mechanics down with the way he can run, 6'5" guy. I think he can lock that second spot down when it clicks up top. I think it's Schuessler, but I think Kelly Bryant, talent-wise, has got a high ceiling, and I'm going to take it off there, guys.
All right, thank you very much. Didn't leave us much time here with a break coming up. We're going to hear from Dabo coming up after this break. So, I mean, I have felt for a while here that this Clemson program is building towards a very strong run because they've got the number one piece. They've got the engine, and that's Deshaun Watson. He's going to make everyone around him better on the offensive side. Defense, they shouldn't take a big step back if they can stay healthy, as Venables said after the game. Front 11 is pretty doggone good.
They're not going to win a national championship next year, though.
Well, I wouldn't say they not. Definitely not.
I just did.
Well, it was fun. It was competitive. I think for the most part, it was a pretty clean game. Not a lot of penalties. I think we had one. It was fun. It was competitive. Competitive. To take the next step, just tells, and he did that, and he did it day in and day out for 15. Attention to details, and he did that.
All right, we'll talk more about Clemson's national championship possibilities for this year,
or lack thereof,
and beyond in just a couple of minutes. But here is Dabo as he talked with the media. What kind of mood was he in, K-Mac, after the game?
Good mood.
Yeah.
He's in a good mood.
All right, here's Dabo talking
Dabo.
to reporters about the spring game and the completion of another spring practice.
Well, it was fun. It was competitive. I think for the most part, it was a pretty clean game. You know, not a lot of penalties. I think we had one bad snap. Didn't really have any turnovers, so right there at the end had the late pick and then a fumble. But you know, I thought both teams competed hard. Bottom line, the white team just made more big plays. Our team, Scott, was amazing. Mike Williams was great for his team, but just more big plays. Very pleased with the quarterbacks. I thought Nick Schuessler, showed what he showed all spring. Really finished up a strong spring for himself. And then those two young quarterbacks, I was really anxious to see them respond, and both of them made some really nice throws. I mean, Tucker had a huge throw down the sideline to Artavis on a great catch, and then Kelly Bryant took his team down a couple times for a couple scores, a couple of critical plays along the drives. Great touchdown throw there to G-Hop on the little screen and go. So, a lot of good things. Backs ran hard. I thought the line did a nice job at the point of attack and some of our zone blocking stuff defensively. Had some guys stand out and make some plays. But, at the end of the day, when you split your team like that, you're always going to not be quite as sharp in some areas. But I thought overall it was a really good day. Really pleased with our return. game. That was something that that's why we did that today. I just wanted to put those guys in some situations, and very, very, very pleased with G-Hop and Artavis. Both those guys can help us in the kicking game. TJ Green as well on the kick returns. Teasdall punted the ball well. I think Ammon made all his kicks. So, again, overall good day. I think everybody came through healthy, so that's the best blessing because, this game you just got to go play. And so it's good to be able to have everybody going into the offseason for the most part pretty healthy. And we'll add to it this summer. So good finish. Now we got to get finished up academically and get ready for a great summer.
Running back position, you said it was Gallman and everyone else earlier this week. Obviously, he had a great game. Did anyone else jump out at you after this?
I don't really necessarily say it's. I don't think I said Gallman and everyone else. I think I just said he's out front, but it's real close. Everybody he's earned. If he were playing today, he'd be a guy going out there. But we have a lot of competition, and I thought you saw some excellent things today from all those guys. Tyshawn Dye looked excellent. You saw some things from Fuller. C.J. Davidson had his best day of the entire spring. He missed the first part of spring, with injury, and really has just kind of gotten going the last half here. So it's good to see him make some really nice plays. And, all those guys, Zach, everybody did some good things. So, as I've said from day one, we've got a good situation there. And I'm confident with all those guys. They can all win for us.
You said Nick played well. Would he be ready to start just in case if something happened where Deshaun couldn't start at the beginning of this next season? And how did you think of the two freshmen, how they played today?
He better be ready to start because he's definitely definitely the backup coming out of spring ball. He's had a very consistent spring, and he has to prepare himself to be the starter. If he's not, then he's cheating himself and he's cheating our team. And same thing with those two young guys. They got to prepare to be the starter. I mean, I just think that has to be your mentality when you're a player. Otherwise you're just not going to have the edge in preparation that it takes. But Nick, again, solid spring, and the two young guys got better all spring. And that's really what the goal was for them. Get them exposed to what we needed to, teach them installation, put them in as many situations as we could. Certainly we could simulate game, have game simulation like we had today every day, but it's hard to do in practice. But I thought they responded well. And, both of them have a lot of work to do this summer. I think they'll come back much better than they were this spring. And if they do that, then we'll have a healthy quarterback situation. But Deshaun will be ready to go. We don't need to worry about that.
On the checklist for red zone offense, have you improved to a point that you're pleased with that right now? More work to do?
There's definitely more work to do. We got to go play games. We can practice, but until you go play games, you really don't know where you are because that's the results. We were off spring, and some of it, in the red zone, if you're going to be good in the red zone, you got to win one-on-one matchups. You got to be able to run the football, and you got to have an athletic quarterback that can make plays for you. Those are kind of the things that I think have to be staples. And, having those elements in place will certainly help us because I think we're going to be able to run the ball better. Certainly have an athletic quarterback in Deshaun, a guy who can make plays, and we got some guys, playmakers outside that are matchup problems. And you have to win matchups in the red zone because you're not playing on a big field. So you get some of those plays, you've got to convert on. I'd say the biggest thing right now coming out of spring, talk red zone, is we got to shore up our field goal protection. I was talking about that the other day. We have to be great in the red zone as far as making kicks. We missed too many kicks in the red zone early part of the season last year that hurt us because those are layups. You got to have those. And so we got some work to do, just kind of getting the right guys in place protection-wise.
What are some areas that the guys can get better on their own during the summer?
Say that again?
What are some areas that the guys can get better on their own during the summer? Everything?
Everything. I mean, always improving your size and strength and speed and, quickness and flexibility, knowledge. It's across the board. And that's why we call this is the time we've been in our get ready phase of our year. We kind of break the year down into 4 segments. And this is we've been getting ready with the off-season mat drill, spring ball, and now we got to transform. And so taking all that stuff and really transforming this summer in all those areas. And that's part of what our meetings are about. Everybody has different things that they need to work on. But a lot of things they can get done this summer.
What did you learn from today with several different quarterbacks throwing to a bunch of different playmakers, a lot of different guys scored? It seemed like we saw a lot from a lot of different people.
Yeah, I think we've got several playmakers. We've got a bunch of guys that can make plays. The biggest thing for us, again, is we got to get our quarterbacks ready. We got 4 guys, and we got to have all 4 ready to play. So, I mean, it's critical. And just so the development of them, and that's why I really think it's a blessing for us that we were able to kind of remove Deshaun from the equation this whole spring. And he mentally had a great spring, but being able to take him out of that and just throw everything at those 3 guys is really going to pay off for us, because they'll go back through it all in the summer. They'll start over this summer. And then when we get in fall camp, they'll get it again. So they're going to get better. The biggest thing is they want to be good. They've got good work ethic and very coachable.
Do you have a feel of redshirting one or either of them?
No, heck no. I don't know that we can redshirt anybody right now. I mean, we got so far to go to September. All 4 of those guys need to go into the summer thinking they're the starter, and they need to prepare that way because that's what we need. The national champion was on their 13th quarterback this year. So, we got to have everybody ready to go and develop that experience that we need. And I'm really pleased with Nick because he took the next step. He was, his deal's different than Kelly and Tucker. Nick he can do it physically. He's got the tools. He knows what to do. He just needed to take the next step. Just day in, day out consistency, sense of urgency, attention to details, and he did that.
All right, Dabo Swinney, after Saturday's spring game, looking at things, of course, from the perspective of the glass being 9/10 full. Mm-hmm. He always looks at things from a positive position, and for good reason. He's got a good-looking offense. He's got a defense that in the front 11 looks very good. Got to fill in a couple of reserve situations there, but they got some good players in the program and good players on the way. And we'll talk about Clemson's national title hopes for this year when we come back. Steve Spurrier around the corner as well. Don't go away. I mean, I think there's reason to include Clemson in conversation here in the spring and summer about the playoffs for next year's college football season. Look at an offense led by a dynamic quarterback. Now, of course, you have to take into consideration that guys can get hurt, and he's had a history of injuries. But I'm saying all things holding together and avoiding catastrophic injury to a major player. If Watson stays healthy all season, this Clemson offense can be a 35, 40-point per game offense. The defense doesn't have to be nearly as good as it was last year, but it won't be, I don't think, that far off of where it was last year. Maybe some guys have to come on at linebacker still because they lost such a good group there. But up front, I mean, I like and Dodd. Some capable backups have to emerge, like Pagano, Okondeko, maybe Richard Jurgen, Albert Huggins as a true freshman. Secondary looks very good to me. So, I mean, K-Mac, am I penciling them in to win the national championship? No, but I don't think you can just dismiss them immediately by saying there's no way they can win it. There's a way they can win it. They're good enough to beat everybody they play this year. And they get Notre Dame at home. They have that game at Louisville on a Thursday night. You have to come to Columbia, but they're good enough, I think, to beat every team.
I mean, they get their toughest games at home, sans Louisville. I mean, Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, Florida State, those games all at home. And they do have to go to Miami. You never know about that one. Clemson, I don't disagree with the offense. I still think going into the season, a more realistic goal would be, let's see if we can win the division. Maybe they can make a run at Florida State. Winning a national championship, and getting into the playoff are two different things. I still don't think they're quite there yet for maybe Watson's senior year, or not senior year, junior year, because I don't know that he's going to have a senior year when they have a little more depth on that defense, because you do have to have a salty defense at the end of the day to win a national championship. That's, how did Oregon get stopped in the national championship game, that big offense? I mean, what won it for Ohio State? It was their defense. They went out there with a quarterback that was third string, that hadn't even played until 2 weeks, 3 weeks before the playoffs started. So I'm just not ready to put Clemson in that elite air just yet.
And, of course, Ohio State had that sledgehammer that people just like to throw away now, and that's the running game. Needed to shove it down somebody's throat. Ohio State was able to do it. The interesting thing about Clemson, and this is what I want to see, and I didn't see enough of it last year, and that is Deshaun Watson. What is his counter? We almost saw it in the Georgia Tech game. Remember, he struggled in the beginning of that game because Georgia Tech figured out, okay, here's some things he likes to do, and we're going to take these away. And then as he seemed to be formulating a counter for that, he got hurt. And so we didn't see him counter. That's going to be the key, because we know everybody's doing their homework on him, and they're going to take away things he likes to do. Now he's going to show he's going to be a tremendous quarterback because he's going to have a counter for that. But we just have not seen it yet. The key still to me is how much that defense can improve in the first 5 or 6 ball games while the offense carries it. If they can survive, then they got a chance.
It seems like we got.
Okay, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Couple of quick notes before we get to Steve Spurrier. Coastal baseball. Anthony Marks was named the Big South pitcher of the week. I'm sorry, not pitcher of the week, player of the week. Had a great week for the Chanticleers. Trying to read this while I'm listening to Steve Spurrier in my headset state. Man, you're driving me crazy. Anyway, Anthony Marks is the player of the week. He went 10 for 18, 556 in 4 games this past week. That's in the Big South. And USC announced today that Elisa Welch is one of 12 WNBA draft prospects who will be at the draft proceedings up in Connecticut this week.
You already knew that because you and Lisa tight. Right.
Well, I did see her on the street last week.
Yeah,
and
leaving the studio.
Congratulated her on a great season and asked her what was up next for her, and she told us that she was headed up there for that. That'll be on ESPN2 at 7 o'clock on April 16th. Okay. Oh, the baseball polls for this week, and USC and Clemson out of all of them, but College of Charleston, number 22, Coastal number 18 by Baseball America. By collegiate baseball, Coastal is 29, Charleston is 30. In the coaches poll this week, Coastal Carolina is number 20. Clemson's Chris Oakey, the ACC baseball player of the week, had a great week, 3 homers, 2 doubles, 565 batting average. All right, now to Steve Spurrier. Gamecock spring game on Saturday. Of course, they were limited with what they could do, especially on offense, because they only have about 6 or 7 healthy offensive linemen they could run out there. So here's Spurrier reviewing the spring game and talking about the spring in general.
It seems like we got a lot of plays in for 6 offensive linemen the whole day, and we had a little bit of a game. It was sort of neat to see Michael Scarnecchia connect with Debo Samuel to get down to the 1-2 yard line and then hit Terry Guger on the slant there with the clock running out. So added a little suspense to an otherwise not a real super-duper offensive game. I thought all the quarterbacks did some pretty good things out there today. I wish we'd get the ball out of their hands. They want to take off running every now and then. And it looked like there was a lot of sacks out there that probably would have happened if the quarterbacks had been live. But Connor Mitch, he threw for 80 yards or so, 10 out of 16. Scarnecchia was 12 of 19, 191 yards, and Perry Orth was 9 of actually he was 11 of about 20. So they all seem to have their stats are very similar every time we scrimmage. So maybe that's the kind of team we are right there. But anyway, there was some good hustle out there. I thought the defense looked good, playing just 2 coverages. So there was no mistakes. When you only play 2 coverages, it's hard to make a mistake. So that's something that we certainly can improve upon from what we did last year as far as everybody knowing what to do. That gives you a chance. So anyway, spring practice is over. We're ready to get into the summer. We're ready to finish up the semester academically as strong as we can. So that's the main thing these next 2 weeks, finish academically, and then get ready for the summer. Okay, any questions? Yes, sir.
Steve, just about Connor's performance, how confident are you in him that he'll keep doing what he needs to do throughout the
Connor
summer
Mitch?
to beat the guy? Yeah, on September 3rd.
Well, yeah, Connor's doing fine, and all three of them. Like I said, statistically they're pretty similar. Michael Scarnecchia got to get the ball out of his hands. Sometimes he won't throw it if he doesn't think it's got a chance and so forth. But they all do some good things. Do some good things. Lorenzo Nunez, he was here watching the scrimmage. He'll be ready to step in the competition as soon as he gets on campus in the summer. So we're still trying to see if one guy's clearly better than the rest. People think I like to change quarterbacks. We didn't change one, but 2 games in 13 last year. So now we're always trying to find out who the best player is. And if they're pretty close in ability, then you simple as that. So we still got a lot of time to decide who's our quarterback.
Steve, how'd you line up Darius Rucker to come in and catch it? Was he excited about doing it?
He was fired up about it. I said, have you ever caught a touchdown at Williams-Brice? He said, no, I'd love to. I said, I can make it happen for you. Come on. Yeah, Darius is, I tell you, not only is he one of the top country music guys in the country now, I think one of his new songs is #1, so forth, but he loves South Carolina. He wears that Gamecock hat everywhere he goes, every show he does. I've never seen one of his shows, television or whatever, that he doesn't have that Gamecock hat on. So wonderful ambassador for our university, all the sports programs, and he's right down there in Charleston, Mount Pleasant area. So I think he and his son drove up, and I think they left almost right after that. He had to get back. I think he's playing a concert somewhere tonight, actually. But he caught it cleanly, didn't he? I tell you, it'd be embarrassing to drop that ball right in your hands. But we've seen drops happen. I might get one of you sports writers out there next year if you think you can do it. I don't know.
Steve, do you see Scarnecchia as one of your running options at quarterback, or was that him making his own decision when he ran in that?
Yeah, he did. He bellied it in there and kept it. The zone read. You sort of read that defensive end. If he crashes down, you're supposed to keep it. I don't know that style of offense as well as some of these other guys, but from what I understand, that's what they say. You read the end, and if he crashes, you run with it, and that's what he did. Yep. Yep.
Coach, what did you think of some of the younger wide receivers today? You said the spring game's a big day for them to step up and show what they got. Yeah,
they did okay. Carlton Hurd caught some passes. KC Crosby. KC caught it says just 3 for 70 yards, though. That's not bad. Debo, I think he caught more than one. Oh, they had him on both teams. He caught 3 for over 100 yards. And little Shaq Davidson made some nice catches in there. And Terry Guger caught slant for the touchdown. They did okay. Our guys got to get faster. We got some big guys out there, and Christian Owens did okay. He caught a few passes, but our guys got to really work on speed this summer, and you can improve your speed. You really can. So we got to have some speed out there. We kept trying to throw some deep balls, but they were well covered, and we just didn't even throw them. So, but all those guys are pretty good. They've, I don't know that one is completely step with the others. I think Debo at times he shows some big play potential. So we know he's going to play, and Pharaoh is going to play. After that, we were hoping Shamir Jeffrey would have a big spring, but he sprained his ankle walking down the steps the other day, so he didn't even play today. But all these other guys are sort of in a wad right now. and you can really improve through the summer. They've had spring ball now. They know the patterns. They know what they need to work on. And sometimes it's always amazing how better shape a player can become from April to August.
All right, Steve Spurrier from the Gamecock spring game on Saturday. And, it kind of feels like the quarterbacks were pretty solid between the three of them. And, again, that particular game was a hard one to single out any particular area that stood out because they didn't. I think his approach to the spring game is just get through it, don't get anybody hurt, and let's get ready for fall because they're not doing anything all that imaginative on either side. But I did think defensively they tackled better, looked a little cleaner. I liked how the receivers caught the ball. right, we're back on Sports Talk. A couple of other notes for you tonight. Furman freshman Grant Sherman, Southern Conference Pitcher of the Week. This afternoon, Coastal Carolina defeated High Point to complete a sweep of that series. So the Chanticleers continue to play outstanding baseball. And they win that game 6-2 this afternoon and improved to 26-9, 10-2 in the Big South. Charleston Southern basketball has lost assistant coach Ty Murray. He's been named the head coach at Shorter University in Georgia. Virginia junior Justin Anderson is going to leave for the NBA draft, meeting with agents and plans to enter the draft a year early. Unless, of course, he changes his mind, decides to go back to school. And I had a couple of other recruiting notes to pass along. Defensive end Julian Okara from Charlotte is going to announce tomorrow Clemson, Georgia, Notre Dame, Michigan, and Ole Miss. Probably going to be Notre Dame. His brother plays there, went up there for a visit. Most recent interview was with the Notre Dame site. My guess is it'll be Notre Dame. And offensive lineman Tyler Pritchett from Auburn, Alabama, who had the USC and Clemson offers, among many others, committed today to North Carolina. USC missed on a target over the weekend. Offensive lineman Chris Barnes of Leesburg, Georgia, committed to Georgia. And Spartanburg quarterback Austin Scott picked up an offer from Old Dominion. And another USC target, running back Trey Harbison of Shelby, North Carolina, committed to Virginia over the weekend. All right. South Carolina coming on to the spring, I think that I think they have a chance to be better on defense. I think what Hoke has already instilled in them in terms of their performance and their fundamentals, I think you could see that in the spring game. So I would think that the defense, with the aging of the defense, with some of these older players coming in and the returning players having gone through last year, especially those guys in the secondary, I do look for improvement there. I wouldn't be surprised if they went from, what were they last year, 90-something in total defense to moving somewhere in the 30s or 40s perhaps. On offense, again, the quarterback's the big question. Who's it going to be? How well is he going to play? I do like some of the weapons that they'll have around him. I think the wide receivers are going to emerge and be fine. Didn't see much of the running game, but I think David Williams is going to be just fine, whether it's him or who's the other guy?
And Wilds.
Yeah,
But
Wilds,
here's the deal. That offensive line banged up all spring, so they had a bunch of new guys out there. But that's going to be a huge issue. The offense at South Carolina was really good last year. I mean, people, they remember the losses and how they lost, but the bottom line is, statistically speaking, that was one of the best offenses that South Carolina's had since they've been in the SEC. So they're going to take a step back. And you mentioned a defense in the 40s nationally. I don't know if that's going to be good enough. They probably need to have a top 25 defense to win games. They're going to have to start winning games the way they did in 2010, 2011, and 2012. Those games that are 21, 17, where they make a play in the fourth quarter. They're not going to be able to outscore teams and get in the shootouts that they were in last year. If they didn't have that great offense last year, they probably would have been blown out
and of course,
some of those games.
Part of that great offense, it was a detriment to the defense because they scored quickly. Yet when they needed to play ball control, they seemed to forget how to and couldn't get a first down in winning time. And that's the key. That's why I'm going to be old school till I pass away. And I always say, I don't care how good you are throwing the football. If you can't run the football in winning time, you won't.
All right, to the phones we go once again. Mark and Aiken, you're up next here on Sports Talk. How are you?
Hey, how you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Listen, I have a golf question for you. And if you guys have mentioned this already, I do apologize. But seeing the potential rivalry that could be brewing between Jordan and Rory, what do you think he pockets another major this year? And also, what do you think the probability is that Jordan can get the other 3 majors that he needs before Rory can even get the Masters. And I'll let you guys handle it. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm always try to be a little careful when jumping on the bandwagon, not to jump over the bandwagon. I mean, I know Jordan Spieth was fantastic for 4 days at Augusta. Heck, he's been fantastic for 8 days at Augusta. And he finished second last year, and he was unbelievable last week. But I don't know. Well, we'll continue this in just a moment here on Sports Talk. We'll be right back. Former Clemson pitcher Dominique Leone's been called up to the majors by the Mariners. All right, back to Rory and Jordan and Tiger and all those guys as some of them head over to Harbortown. Jordan Spieth is supposed to play at Harbortown this week. We'll be down there Thursday and Friday and have sports talk for you from Harbortown. But as far as Spieth is concerned, I mean, yeah, we could sit here and go, sure, man, he's going to win the Grand Slam this year. He's the only one that can win the Grand Slam this year. Mm-hmm. But it's golf. And it's the most unpredictable sport there is, I would say. It is truly the most unpredictable sport there is. I would have given you great odds that Tiger, after the way he played Saturday, would make a strong run on Sunday. But he missed that first putt on number 1 and never could get it going.
I never felt like he was going to make a run at Spieth. I mean, Spieth was running away.
He had to back up. He never did back up. But I would have, based on how Tiger played Saturday, and he's a guy that
his best
plays
round
a
since
lot.
2011. That was his best round there since 2000.
Yeah, and he's a guy that obviously thrives on the emotion of the moment. I thought that would carry him into a big round on Sunday. But the point I'm making here is, Spieth, he could go down to Harbortown and miss the cut, and nobody would blame him considering everything he's gone through.
Leading up to this tournament, he'd been winning, playing very well. It's not like he just came out of nowhere and who is this guy that's winning the Masters?
We were ready to say the same thing about Rory when he had his little hot run, and now he did not make. He made noise.
He finished in the top 5.
But
he's still one of the best players.
He didn't challenge. Of course, Spieth
pushed
the bar so far ahead of everybody. Mm-hmm. But Rory has not taken that next big step to another major when people thought he was going to.
He's won every major except for the Masters.
That's correct.
So, I mean, that's.
When did he win his last major?
That's pretty last year.
In the.
Was it the U.S. Open? I mean, he won one last year.
It was I think it was the British.
Yeah. I mean,
British Open.
and he won it pretty convincingly.
Yeah.
I mean, Rory McIlroy is great. I mean, and Spieth is the same way. I mean, we don't know how many majors he's going to win, but I can tell you this right now, that will not be the only major championship Jordan Spieth wins. He is going to be a multiple major championship winner and a big time money winner. And I mean, he just has it. I mean, he has that mental breakdown to go out there.
To the question of the caller, will he complete the Grand Slam, the career Grand Slam before Rory does?
No.
The odds would be with Rory.
Yeah.
He's only got one more to go.
Yeah. Rory won 2 last year.
Because
he won 2 last year?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because Spieth, does his game translate to some of those courses with all those traps in England? I mean, that is just difficult links golf you have to play. The other key is how do guys handle other stuff on them? Already, Gordon Spieth, he's a Masters champion. You need to go to this meet. Hey, so-and-so has a contract signed.
Don't get married.
So-and-so.
Don't
and you
get married.
And you get caught up in that stuff. Well, Rory did that. He stepped back from his engagement to try to see if he can win another major.
All right, that's going to do it for tonight. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you tomorrow night right back here on Sports Talk.